Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Mustang Robotics Symposium series. I'm your director, Jacob Ursula, and behind the scenes we also have producers Jai Liang and Sophia Pantoja. Our program greatly appreciates each and every one of you for coming to the show tonight. In fact, we would like to graciously invite you to type in chat and let us know who you are. Please tell us your name, school, organization, anything, and we will gladly shout you out in subsequent episodes. If you have any questions for the guests throughout the stream, feel free to put those in the chat as well. But anyways, please welcome the host of the Mustang Robotics Symposium series, Mr. Chad Pearson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Mustang Robotics Alumni Symposium series being held during the pandemic-affected year of the 2020 season for VEX Robotics. We're coming to you live from Southern California and eventually also Florida, where it's not so sunny, but the sun's still out. And tonight we are representing a Mustang Robotics Club, which is a VEX Robotics club located at Otay Ranch High School. We do this after school. We're proud to say that we've been doing this for over 10 years now. So we decided to reach out, ask some of our alumni to come back, interact with us, tell us about what they're doing in life, how they figured out their pathway. And we tonight have a young lady who's representing the Navy currently and Avesta. We are very grateful that you're joining us from Florida right now from your pilot school. So Avesta, welcome.
Thank you.
So I know that we were talking before the episode and you were really excited about being here. And I know we interviewed someone last week that you know. And so it just kind of adds to the enjoyment that back to back I get people that are in that same little group. And so why don't we start with what year did you graduate Otay Ranch High School?
2016.
2016. So that year actually starts. It doesn't feel that long ago, but it's long enough ago. It's in the mix of my alumni and stuff. Right. So 2016. What was your first year of robotics?
I believe it was 2014.
2014. So
it was my junior year.
Your junior year. So what brought you into Mustang Robotics? Because we are located on a campus that has almost 3,000 students, usually about 2,800 kids, and it's a pretty good sized campus. So to be drawn into robotics, there's usually a reason. What brought you into our classroom or our environment?
Yeah. So as you know, Mr. Pearson, my cousin Hari, who's also an alumni, he was very, very involved with robotics, and it was kind of like a big deal, and he made it known in the family, and it seemed so cool. And I was really good friends with Kimmy Walker, and I knew she was also in robotics, and just kind of seeing her experience and how much fun she had, and we had a lot of classes together, and she would be like, all right, well, I have to go to robotics. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And so that just kind of like piqued my interest a little bit. I wasn't really I feel like I was kind of I was a little different from like the normal crowd of like robotics people. At least it felt that way for me, just because most people wanted to join because they wanted to be a builder, or like they were really into like programming or engineering or, all that stuff. Whereas for me, I was just more interested in like the team aspect and like the whole like leadership aspect of it, which is why when I ended up joining, my position was manager. So yeah,
the social guru of the group.
Is that still what it's called now, manager?
We still have our manager and our team leaders. We everything is still very established as the same pattern. The one difference we would have is we have interviews still, except for now our campus draws sometimes up to 100 students for those interviews. And the club has become very established in the pattern of being not only a social club. I understand that. We all understand that.
Yeah.
but a dynamic place for individuals who need to release all this pent up nerd energy. I have no other way of really saying it. I have no other way. And so you walk into this junior year, you get placed on a team. Any particular experience jump out from robotics in high school? Anything like jump out at you, a certain competition, certain game?
Oh yeah. So gosh, there's so much. The main thing that really sticks out to me is the interviews at all of the competitions. So I remember we would have like the interviews with the judges, like the team manager would go and interview and kind of represent their team to that judge, and with the notebooks and all that stuff. And I feel like I was always like on the shyer side, and I wasn't very comfortable with like talking to people who weren't really my peers, I guess. Because it can be intimidating talking to someone who, knows what they're talking about and is full on adult. Like it's really intimidating. And so I don't remember what the judge's name was, but it was one of the competitions. And I had an interview with this woman, and she was so impressed by my interview that she gave me her card, like her business card, and she told me that if I ever wanted an internship, that I should let her know, and also if I wanted help with my college applications, that she would help me out. And I was so amazed by that, and I was like, who am I that she would like reach out to me and make me feel special and like really like lend that hand and say, hey, like, let me help you. I want to be invested in your career and your growth. And that was so special to me. And it really like made me realize the impact that like robotics has, and how people view us, and people care as much as we care. And that people that are actually in the engineering industry or whatever, STEM like industry nowadays are actually very much want to be involved with students that are in these programs, because they are like going to be the future and going to be taking on the jobs in the future that these people have. So that really stuck out to me, because she just like out of the blue gave me her card, and she was like, yeah, let me know if you ever need help. Like I'm there for you. And that was really awesome.
But it also sounds like that moment represents an aha moment of a little bit of an adult perspective that jumps into you, a maturity moment of you realizing, wait a second, this is like a job application. Like that was like an interview that actually resulted in something that you could see as a future step, not just a role play of a science experiment or a role play of something like that. Because if you watch it, and for the audience out there, we are a VEX Robotics based program. And so you could look up a lot of different competitions, or obviously the pictures you're posting at the beginning, and get an idea of, it's a remote control game. You're having a great time. There's autonomous mode, but there is this perspective that you are being interviewed and interacting with adults who are maintaining positions in career fields that a lot of the kids that participate would love to cross. That's your future goals. And so you have this little aha moment, like, oh, and then robotics kind of works. So what else are you doing in high school at the time? Like, is there student government related? Is there debate club? Is there, I know that we have an Academy of Justice on our campus, and eventually you end up at ROTC. So I'm wondering if there's a connection there. So what else are you interested in?
Oh, I was all over the place. I was involved in a lot of stuff. I did speech and debate, academic league, AOCJ for sure, Academy of Criminology and Justice. That was also a really big part of my high school career that like eventually led me to where I am now, obviously. And I was very involved in that too. And in the community as well, I volunteered at the Sharp Chula Vista Medical Center, and I was volunteering there for about 5 years. And I don't even have no interest in the medical field, but that was still something that I was very involved in. And then I also did track and cross country for a couple of years. Yeah.
I figured since you were in the military, there had to be a little bit of that too. You got to have that pent up energy to go join the military branch.
I was very much all over the place, but I think by my senior year, I was definitely prioritizing what I enjoyed the most, which ended up being robotics.
Gotcha.
And I think robotics is, I was involved in a lot of stuff in high school, but I think robotics was like my fondest memory of high school, just because of the people and like the advisors, especially. Like, you guys were a huge part of my development. Like, I don't even remember anything past like or before junior year, honestly. Like, you guys were a huge part of my development. And then like my peers too, they were a huge part of my development too. Everybody in robotics, I feel like, influences each other, and we kind of like build off of each other and help each other to kind of find our way in life in a way. And, especially like your senior year, it can be a really scary time when you're applying to colleges and stuff like that. And it really helps to have like a solid group of friends who have generally the same interests as you. Whether it be engineering or not, most people go into STEM out of robotics. And so it's just really nice having that like solid group of people that you can rely on. And, here, you read my paper, I'll read yours. And we help each other out. So, yeah.
What's interesting is you're talking about a group of kids that I now have the pleasure of being able to look at where they're at currently. And as a group, you were tight as could be. Hours, hundreds of hours together, hundreds and hundreds of hours every Friday night of my life. And look where I am on a Friday night. That's my running joke this year. I'm still on Friday nights with my Mustang Robotics. But looking to see where you guys all took different pathways, and you're all ending up in different places, different career fields, but it all kind of starts with robotics, is a really cool feeling for me to know that at the time and the place, it was more the friendship and the idea that the people around you had a drive, an educational drive and basis to be successful. And that was the familiarity of your group. That's what brought you together, the glue. Right. Senior year comes. What are you thinking about senior year? Because we're running around and I know every year I lose a little bit of my seniors' focus. My juniors are always way more focused for the year and time. I got tons of time. My seniors, all of a sudden we start doing things and college apps and college trips. Can you walk me through a little bit of what starts going through your mind when you realize, oh my God, graduation is coming and I got to figure this out? Because it's a little bit like that. It's like all of a sudden you're like, you look up from the project and you're like, oh, graduation, I can see it. Senior pictures. We just had a couple kids go for senior pictures over the last week. What was your way of looking at school, the process, and how you chose where you went?
Yeah, gosh, there's so much that goes into that. I don't think anybody thought I would end up doing what I ended up doing. So it's kind of weird to explain it. So like I said, I was super involved with AOCJ. And because of that part of my life, I always kind of knew that I was going to end up in some kind of like service, I guess I want to say. I was looking into like firefighting. I was looking into police. I was looking into the military. And the more I looked, the more opportunities like became available to me, because, there's so many things out there that like aren't presented to us when we're in high school, because there's just not any opportunity to. So it's important. I would say it's really important to like do your own research, and don't always just like look at like the conventional path of doing things, because to me, at least, I had an older sister who went to college, did things like the very like normal way, I want to say. And so that was like the obvious like option available. But I wanted to see like what else I could do, what else was out there that like they don't have pamphlets for in the front office and stuff like that. So I looked it up, and I was kind of leaning towards potentially applying to like the Air Force Academy or something like that, mainly because I was like, oh, like that's a great deal. The military sounds great to me. It's the Air Force, like all good. And then I started looking into scholarships in case I didn't want to go to the academy. If I wanted to go to a regular school, I wanted to figure out different ways that I could pay for college, because college is so expensive. And people don't really realize that until you're there and you're like, oh my gosh, $13,000 like for one quarter. That's insane. So yeah, I was looking into scholarships and I came across the Navy ROTC Scholarship. And that took up once I decided that I wanted to go for the Navy ROTC Scholarship, and by go for it, I mean apply to it. That doesn't necessarily mean that I was like super committed to it. I was like, oh, I'll just apply to it and see what happens. So that took up a large portion of like the first half of my senior year, because it is like a very long application process. Just the application itself is pretty much like a whole other college application.
So did you feel like you found really a firm footing, a real good direction, and you put kind of all of your effort into going into the ROTC, or were you also filling out college apps just in case? You had a few of those. Okay.
That's definitely where I was at. I don't think I really had like I don't think I was like really on the same page, like, oh, I 100% want to do this. Pretty much until I was like, okay, I have to do this. Like until it was the moment where like I had to decide. Like up until then, like I was still like debating in my head, should I just go to college normally? Should I like go for the academy? Should I do ROTC? There was like so much going on in my head.
So at the end, you ended up getting college letters of acceptance, and you got the Navy ROTC. Did you get the ROTC in multiple locations, or was it very specific to one location?
So the way that the scholarship works is you get the scholarship and then you can apply it to whatever schools have the program available.
Okay.
As long as the school has the program available, then like you could take it wherever school you want.
And Washington was the closest school you could go to. That sounded like your mom coming out a little bit, huh? Washington is the closest school you can go to for this?
Not necessarily. UCSC has an ROTC program, and so does.
I thought you were going to say something like that. Yeah.
So does SDSU. So does UCLA. Which, yeah, I didn't apply to that many schools. I applied to maybe like 5 or 6 schools, and I've gotten to all of them, which didn't really help narrow anything down anymore. So it was hard.
You're like, darn it, I wanted that to help. Like I literally only wanted 2 back, and I could figure this out. Or 1, and then it was done for you.
Yeah, but I do want to go into my ROTC application process a little bit more, because I think it's really interesting. The reasons, like, I feel like it's not a very like known scholarship for some reason. So the process includes like, it's like a college application. So you have like the what's it called? The personal statement, and send in all your grades, your test scores, all that. And then there's also an athletic component to it. You have to do a.
We'll be real patient on our end. Oh, there, you're back. Yeah. You're fine, hon. You just cut out for a second. So do me a favor. Let's go back, because this is important. Okay. Start me at the beginning, because we lost you for a half a sec. But you do have a college application. You have a letter. Okay, right. Go from there.
Right. So you have letter of recommendations that you have to get. You have to write up a personal statement. You have your grades, and there's also an athletic component to it. So you have to do a physical fitness test, and that goes into your application. Once you submit all that, then they narrow it down and they select fewer people to come in for in-person interviews, which are on base. And you're interviewed by like some like commander, and it's super intimidating. And I wanted to add that I don't think that I would have done as well in my interview as I did if it weren't for all of the interviews that I had to do for robotics. And I found that during my interview, I couldn't stop talking about robotics, because during the interview, you're supposed to be selling yourself pretty much as to why you're the best candidate, why you'll become a leader. in, you know, the US Navy, why they should believe in you, why they should spend $500,000 on you, your education, to commission you as an officer.
Why are you worth it?
Exactly. And I found myself talking about my experiences in robotics so much. You know, every single question was like, oh, like, what makes you a leader? Boom, robotics. What makes you think that you're a good problem solver? Boom, robotics. Like, every single answer was like, I can think of scenarios in robotics where it was just like the perfect answer to every question. And pretty much right after my interview, I went out into the waiting area. Not even 5 minutes later, the commander calls me back and he's like, hey, I just wanted to tell you that, like, you really impressed me and, like, you got the scholarship. So.
And is that normal for people to be called back in and told? No. So you are actually the only one who gets to leave that location kind of dancing on a little cloud, like, oh my God.
Normally you'll get an email 1 to 2 weeks after your interview to say if you got the scholarship. Wow. He called me back in, he was like, I just wanted to tell you that, like, you got the scholarship. And that was really, like, the moment that I was like, wow, like, okay. Am I worth it? Like, really? Like, it was kind of like an ego boost and also like self-confidence, like, boost. And that I was like, I think I can do this. Like, things that seem intimidating, it's like, no, like, I had this. I totally had this. And I was on top of it. And so it felt really good.
And you performed with no stage fright. You had organized ideas that came out in full sentences with concepts included.
Yeah.
One of the things that you really did was you hit on the major theme of a military branch, which is teamwork, organized teamwork, and willingness to become part of a team. And so it becomes, for everyone out there listening to us, these conversations, they blossom little ideas, little seeds grow of commonality. And one of them really is that robotics comes out later on and when you least expect it as a positive thing that helps you get to another step or open another door, or just say you have an experience that people smile about that isn't necessarily an experience that maybe they would attach to you. And so you've narrowed it down to an ROTC program. You got through the commander and his intimidation, which is actually a planned out moment because they don't want people who can't make it through that moment.
Right.
And you're rewarded with a personal, like a personal interaction that tells you you've earned it. And that's really cool to hear. So at that moment, do you know you're going to Washington or do you just know you're in the door?
At that moment, I knew that I was going to go the ROTC route because I liked the whole feel of, like, the whole environment. I liked that, you know, obviously whatever I had experienced in robotics was pretty much what they were looking for. And so I was like, hey, if that's the kind of, like, organization that you guys are, then I'm all about that, you know? Because I had the best time in robotics. I love the people. I love the interaction. I love the teamwork. And the guy was like, yeah, like, this is what we're all about. And so I was pretty much sold on ROTC. The Washington part came out when I was taking a really close look at the different, like, ROTC units that the different colleges had. And I did a little bit more research on the University of Washington, and they were actually one of the, I believe, 9 original ROTC units established, like, in 1912.
Okay.
And so they are, like, one of the
Can we tell out there the world of Vesta's little history buff? Can we tell that she likes history? So that's a draw for you, one of the originals.
Yeah, like, and so they were one of the originals. They're very established, and some of the best, like, naval captains in, like, the world wars have come out of the University of Washington Navy ROTC. So
got prestige attached to it before you
There's
even
a
attend.
lot of prestige, yeah.
If we just pause here for a second, you said like you made me feel like different ROTCs would maybe concentrate on different things. Now, for robotics, we would break it into the notebook portion and the engineering and the programming. Is that what you kind of mean? Like there's more of a water-based ROTC. I'm imagining San Diego. There's more of a flight training ROTC. It does it go anything like that, or would it?
I do wish it worked that way. It
Okay.
doesn't quite. However, I will say every single unit is different in the way that they teach. Just like every single teacher in a school has different ways that they conduct their classroom, right? So it's the exact same way with the units. That every unit has a CO, the commanding officer, and that commanding officer conducts his ROTC unit in a different way. And so those changes, those like small changes, actually make a huge difference in what you take away from the whole program, and what kind of influences you get as far as like what community you want to go into in the Navy, whether you want to go aviation or surface warfare or submarines or the nurse corps. Like it really has an impact on you. So being in Seattle, I was really close to Whidbey Island, which is a naval air station. So we would travel there quite often. So I got to see the different like aircraft and squadrons there pretty often, which had a pretty big influence on like what I chose. So I hope that clears.
That was perfect, huh? Because that actually goes perfect with the way I remember everything. Is you come back and you're in your little uniform and all of a sudden you're all excited about planes, and I'm like, where the hell did planes come from? Jesus, you just left and I didn't know what you were going to study. Now you're like all excited about planes. And for the last couple of years, a slight obsession with most of those photographs happen to have something with planes in it. If you haven't noticed, what I like is you found that you were under the belief after researching that program that you thought you could head that way and find something that fit you with the leadership style and the potential of that program giving you opportunities. And so leadership style is interesting because all those Mustangs out there, you all know my leadership style during competitions is I already said my piece. I walk away. I go help make sure everything runs. And that's a very unique leadership style that you guys make me be able to do. We are so tight. You don't need me during competition day. So Avesta, you decide on, you're going to have to yell at me later, but is it Washington or Washington State you go to?
It's the University of Washington.
It's not even the two I say. Okay, so you don't even need to yell at me. We'll just go with my ignorance there. So you're University of Washington. You're a Husky.
Yes, UW.
Yes,
go dog.
Oh, you got to throw it out. Okay, and so how's campus? What's camp? Give us. We right now are stuck in bedrooms. We're stuck in living rooms. We're stuck in video land here because of this crisis in the world, this pandemic, and we have some seniors. I have some juniors who would love to know, what did it feel like when you walked onto the campus? What is kind of the feel of campus life, activities, the things that go on, the things that make campus live? But give us just that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually hadn't set foot on that campus until I had committed to the campus already, which is kind of risky for me. But it didn't matter in the end because the campus is absolutely gorgeous. It's, right in Seattle, right in the center of Seattle, Washington, like the greenest state ever. So there's so much nature just like on the campus, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And it's a very like spread out campus. And it kind of makes it feel like a city almost. And so it was really, really nice to live there in the dorms like my freshman year. It has like a lot of like trails and stuff like that. So it's very much like activity, like good for activities, if that makes sense. Washingtonians are very like outdoorsy people. So, everybody bikes everywhere, everybody runs everywhere. Like that's the thing to do there. So the campus is very like outdoorsy, great for people who love being outside. And it's so much so that like people in between their classes will just like come out of the building and then just like have like a picnic blanket in their backpack all the time and just set it down and just like kind of like lay down and do whatever, study like outside like all the time.
The way you would go to a beach and check out that blanket and SoCal, pretty much you walk out and you just find a spot on campus. I would say that's actually pretty common in a lot of campuses around the world. But the green part for us in SoCal, I don't know what a green mountain looks like, you know, if my life depended on it.
Yeah, we have the most perfect view of Mount Rainier from our campus. So it's just gorgeous.
So campus has how many students on it? Are we talking a student body of a couple thousand, 10,000? Are we talking San Diego State size where we're hitting in the 30,000 students?
Yeah, so definitely in the 30, 40,000 students. It's a gigantic campus. And majority are undergrad, of course. They have a huge engineering and business school, and as well as their like medicine. Their medicine school is like crazy prestigious, apparently. So yeah.
I like how you said that. Apparently, I was there for something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I never made it over to the medical building. It was too far away.
Yeah.
I know, like we were having a conversation with a young man last week who's at MIT, and it's always surprised me that MIT is this very kind of nondescript type of building. There's nothing that like really, you know, stands out. Where Berkeley, you have the gate, where at Stanford, you got the bell tower, where you could go to all these different schools. You go to San Diego State, you have the bell tower, you know, building. Is there a building or something that your school is known for? Or is it more indescript? Because you said it was downtown, and to tell you the truth, I've been to Seattle and I never thought I was near a campus, but at the same time,
it's like 10 minutes from downtown. Yeah, it's very close. Yeah, I would say there's so much. So it's right on Lake Union. The campus is right on Lake Union.
Okay.
So
which would be the lake where everyone puts their biplanes on and takes off and everything, correct? Like that right behind the hill. I actually know what you're talking about. I spent a week in Seattle, so I was interested in all that.
That's where the campus is, and I think that's like the most like identifiable feature about the school is that it's right on the lake. And yeah, and there's definitely like a couple buildings, like our library, Suzzalo, is known for being like the Harry Potter, like the Hogwarts library.
Well, that totally fits our group. They just smiled. Okay, you made our day. We have the Hogwarts library.
It's known for being like the Hogwarts library. So yeah, there's that.
So a lot of the buildings on campus are older buildings, or is it a newer feeling campus because they reconstructed the buildings? Because you're telling me this program is really old, almost 100 years old. And so you go to, I think you get lucky. You go to a place that sounds like it fits you perfect. You're smiling, you're having a good time.
Yeah.
Hey, did you ever go downtown and get a cup of coffee at Pike's Place?
Oh my gosh, yes. I love Pike's Place. Seattle is like one of the coolest places that I ever could have done my undergrad at. Like I was very nervous going to a city where I didn't know anybody, but to anybody who's watching, if you want to have that like adventure while you're young, go somewhere where you don't know. Like if you can afford it, obviously. If it's doable, like go somewhere completely new, go to a city that like, you know, you've heard of and sounds kind of intriguing, just do it. Like because as soon as you graduate, adult life hits you. I mean, graduate from college, adult life hits you, and you have to get a steady job and, you know, start working. And at that point, you don't really have as much time as you used to go out and explore and travel and stuff. So take advantage of that and have those 4 years be an adventure, meet new people from all over the world, and
take an opportunity if it's available to you.
Yeah.
And as a lot of people would say, spread your wings and enjoy yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I couldn't be more happy with my choice of going to Seattle. It was absolutely like beyond perfect for me. So
cool. So
yeah.
I got to ask a couple more Seattle questions. And guys, for everyone out there who didn't know what Pike's Place is, it's the original Starbucks. It's located near a market. And that market is famous for catching very large fish that people throw at you through the air. You ever attempt to catch a fish?
No, but the guy he scared me with I think it was like a stingray, something like that. He like threw it out at me
and caught the tail or something,
and then like pulled it back in right before it could hit me. I was so scared, but
traumatized for life. That building's incredible. It's a 3-story fish market and food market.
It's kind of like a permanent like farmer's market. Like it's over there. It's really, really cool. Like I went there like dozens of times and I never got sick of it. There's always something new there. So
there's always something. It was a very unique experience for a person from Southern California to walk through that and just go, oh my God, are you serious? People love fish a lot more than I thought.
Yeah.
So let's concentrate on just a couple more questions about where we're at. We're at college. We're in an ROTC program. What's connected to the ROTC part? What are your activities now, Jai? We have one of our directors jumped in and may have a question, and so Jai, do you think the question fits before the idea of jumping into the actual physical requirements and then all of that for ROTC? Oh yeah, go ahead, Jai. What's the question from the audience?
One of the Mustang Robotic members want to ask, what is something that you learned from robotic that you use in college?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say, gosh, just one thing. There's so many. Okay. So the teamwork aspect of it definitely was a huge factor that made group projects and stuff in college a lot easier. Like it or not, you do have group projects in college. And you're working with people who you've never even talked to ever in your life, who may or may not even fluently speak English, and have come from like all different walks of life. So having the whole teamwork thing in robotics, and like, I remember in robotics, like everybody would have like different gears turning in their heads, have different ideas. And then you have to like talk to each other, sometimes even like argue it out on like what you're going to do. And, especially competitions when things are kind of like high intensity. And if something goes wrong, people get heated and you have to really like just work together for the overall like mission, and like, sorry, the military in me.
I love that.
Just working together for the overall mission to get things done, because you're at the end of the day, like you guys are all on the same side and you want to get whatever it is that you guys are trying to do, you're trying to get it done. And so that kind of really tied into college because in a lot of my classes, I had group projects with people I didn't necessarily like, I didn't necessarily agree with, and people who are, just difficult and don't want to do their part.
Right.
And I think that the whole teamwork aspect of robotics made it a lot easier to be able to confront people in a very mature way, mature and efficient way. To where like you can put differences aside and be like, hey, like, I don't know what's going on in your life right now. And I don't know if you want to share that or not, but like, we really need you here. And if you can just do this and, get it done so that we can all benefit from this, like that's just what we need you to do. And so having those like mature and efficient conversations for the benefit of the whole group. And like, I feel like I was always that person. Like my group would be like, hey, can you talk to that guy? And I'd be like, yeah, I can do it. Yeah. And I think that was like one of the biggest things that really helped me in college was like being able to do that, because group projects can be a really, really big pain in college. And there's so much more, like there's so many group projects more than you would think.
Understanding
especially-
personalities and group dynamics is what you're talking about.
yeah.
And being able to utilize that. Yeah. No, but I mean, this is honest. They want to know what out there is important. And you gave me two things. The thing that you took is the being able to read people and approach them and tell them what they need to hear. Rip that Band-Aid off and just tell them what needs to be said and set up a situation for success. Now, the other thing you taught me, or at least said, is maybe I got a new code word for you all out there, Mustangs. And that Mustang code word is, hey, are you about your mission? Because, like high school kids like to get sidetracked while we're building things, and keeping our mission in focus. I kind of like the way that sounds. And it's not me telling you that. It's Ensign Avesta Shwany telling me this, so please. Now, I like that question. Thank you, Jay. So we also want to just know that physical aspect, the aspect of what are these requirements. Do you have a whole nother set of textbooks for ROTC telling you about tanks and weapons and things? I mean, no offense, we have some engineers out there who are like, I really want to see that. But what does that portion feel like? Because I have another couple kids who may think you're just running all day. And you know what I mean? And I'm imagining there's a mix of a little bit of both. So tell me specifically about ROTC responsibilities at college.
Yeah, of course. So my routine week, what it looks like is I would have PT twice a week. If you're not so, PT is physical training, by the way. If you're not so fit, then you have it 3 times a week.
Gotcha.
But if you're doing it 3 times a week, that's a problem. So we're going to say 2 times a week. And on Tuesdays, we have early morning drill, and Tuesdays and Thursdays we have drill, and that's regulation drill, and that's with like rifles and stuff, and you're marching around, training with that.
On campus?
Yes. Yeah, lots of stairs, and all that stuff, PT and drill, that's all in the early morning, so around like 5:30, 6 a.m. That's when that happens. So you have early morning before all of your classes, you have those commitments that you have every single week. And then you also have classes. So in addition to whatever you're studying in college, you are responsible for getting a minor in naval science throughout, or by the end you graduate. By the time you graduate, you have to have a minor in naval science. Naval science includes courses on ship navigation. You have to know different aircraft, different ship systems, like naval engineering and weaponry, naval leadership, naval ethics, military ethics, and just a bunch more classes that are all military based, even naval history as well. So, and what it comes out to is every single quarter, my school was quarter based instead of semesters. So every single quarter we had one Navy class that we had. So on top of your coursework, you would have a 3-credit Navy class. So that was like a regular class, but you were learning Navy stuff. So yeah, so it made college hard because where normally if I was a regular student, I would have a 15-credit quarter, it turned into an 18-credit quarter.
Correct.
And so that just makes things harder. And there were a couple quarters where I had 20-credit quarters, and that's crazy for a quarter system. That's insane. And it was really, really hard to handle. So it's definitely like no joke, the commitment that you make, because it gets really tiring. You have PT in the morning. You're up before people in your 8:30 classes are like even, you're out there running and lifting and doing crazy things before people in your 8:30 classes have even like opened their eyes for the day. Like it's, and then it's hard emotionally too, because you go to your classes and then you hear all the 8:30 a.m. people say, wow, like I'm so tired, and gosh, I almost didn't wake up today, and and you've been awake for like 5 hours.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so you really truly have a full education that's going along with what you choose to study while you're going to college.
Absolutely.
And Avesta, what did you choose to study while you're going to college?
I studied, and what was it? I'm trying to think of the department. Sorry, it's Earth.
Okay.
The overall department name is called Earth and Space Sciences, and my major within the department was geology. So
Geology.
yeah.
We have Jai back, and that means we have another question for you. What's up, Jai?
So one of the audience wondering, what was the hardest type of training you did while in ROTC?
So, gosh,
I
hardest.
think we had a picture of you doing tug of war, and
That was for fun.
that was fun. Okay, so you didn't even clarify that as hard.
No.
What's the thing that jumps out?
So there's different levels of hard, I would say. So there's different ways to like define what hard is. There's hard as in like what sucked the most. And then there's hard as in like, you know, periods of time when you're just like being yelled at so much and you don't get any sleep and you're eating nothing but MREs and getting yelled at 24/7 and you're sleeping outside on the cold ground. There's that. And then there's also just like really, really hard physical exercises, like training sessions. I would say
there's that part of you that said at the beginning, the part that just sucked. And that's just a normal human being who gets tired of stuff. Like after a while, you're like, just sucks. It's routine. Yeah. The other stuff makes a lot of sense with the military. You have your physical and your mental exertion. They're an attempt to form a soldier who has common threads of thinking. You can stand silent next to someone and should be able to perform tasks together, type of thing. So that a lot of that makes sense. To me, sleeping outside where ice forms every night really sounds like that could be the part that sucks for me.
Yeah. So I'll go a little bit into that. Every summer after your full school year, we go active duty in ROTC for our summer trainings. So you also don't get your entire summer to yourself. That's another part about ROTC. You have a month out of your summer where you are training as an active duty, like Navy sailor. So yeah, so that took me to.
You assigned to a ship or assigned to a base for training?
There's different things that you do every like year, designated trainings. So after your freshman year, you go to something called Cortramid, and Cortramid is East Coast based, and you have a week designated for every community in the Navy. So there's a week designated to aviation, a week for SWO, which is surface warfare, so ships basically, and then a week for submarines, and then a week for the Marine Corps, because the Marine Corps falls under the Navy umbrella. Yeah. And then the year after your sophomore year of college, you have your second class cruise, which is you get sent to a ship where you work with enlisted people, and you basically shadow an enlisted person on a ship and do whatever their job is. Like literally whatever they are doing, you do that too. If they have overnight watches from 2300 to 07, like that's your watch. You're not sleeping that night. Like, sorry.
But one of the things to make sure everyone is understanding is the ROTC program is an officer training program. While you're training, following around enlisted individuals to learn their job duties, to have that understanding, so that when you become a leader, no one below you can look at you and say, you've never done my job. You'll be like, wait a second, in ROTC, I did that.
Yeah, that is exactly the purpose of that training, is so that you have that understanding with the people that you are going to be leading, what their life is, what they go through, and yeah, exactly. Like know how their lives are, and you can be more empathetic towards them and their problems, especially as a leader, when you know what they go through on a day-to-day basis.
That is leadership. That is leadership, understanding.
Yeah. And then your last training is after your junior year, and that is same idea, but this time you're following around an officer and you do all the officer things. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
So they walk you through the process of a lot of book work wise. You're exposed to everything in the military, the Navy, the history all the way through the current weapons and organizational procedures and dynamics.
yes.
And then you get the hands-on experience of interacting in multiple places throughout those 3 summers. Jai, did you have a question for us?
Yeah, since you guys are mentioning about being duty, so the girls from Mustang Robotics all would like to know if you ever have encountered any gender-based challenge while you were trying to be part of the military.
Yes.
We got a head shake.
I was really hoping someone would ask that question because absolutely 100% yes. Being a woman in any career field is difficult in itself, but being a woman in the military is so hard. I think the different percentages of women in the military are different based on branches. I believe the Navy is somewhere around like 20% female, something like that. Probably less, to be honest. But yeah, so pretty much when you're standing in a room, 9 out of 10 times you're the only female there. Yeah, so that really does make a difference in how you're treated. And unfortunately, the Navy is very traditional, and all of the military pretty much is very traditional. And there's a lot of people who have been in the military for 20, 30 plus years that are still in the military in very high ranking positions. And some of which who are very, very progressive, but some of which who are very set in their old ways and who were serving in the military when women weren't even allowed in the military. So it's hard to be treated as an equal all the time when there's people like that who, still reminisce on the days when women weren't allowed in the military. And it sucks to talk about, but it's very much the reality.
An ingrained pattern through behavior that you learn. And so experience for that individual is hardened, and it may be difficult to just accept changes or things that are different, especially towards the end of your career. And you've had unacceptable in the concept of what you guys bring to the table.
Right.
And for everyone out there, Mustang Robotics is proud to always we integrate a very large group of young ladies into all of our teams. And sometimes we do walk into events and we are representing pretty much all the girls in the building, just in one organization. And so I know that we were talking about that as one of the questions they wanted to know. Any dynamic of people that you were actually training with, or did you find that dynamic was more accepting? That the actual people in the ROTC program that were similar of age were more progressive in thinking and accepting of you maybe outrunning them, or you flying a plane better, or you, whatever, as a young lady than them as a young man? Did you find that felt a little better?
As far as the people my age in the military, it's kind of give or take.
Gotcha.
I have encountered people who make very sexist comments and are just very degrading towards women. And a lot of the times too, it'll, be something completely inappropriate based off of, how we look in a uniform or whatever, or even judging our abilities, our physical fitness abilities. And they'll say, oh, well, the standards for women are lower than men. So obviously you guys can't perform at the same level as men. And that's just not true. And I have personally encountered a lot of that. I've also encountered times where I have been in charge of people, on my summer trainings. I've encountered times when I've been in charge of people on my summer trainings, and I'm, giving my orders, whatever. And, people make comments about me, about my appearance, whatever, under their breath. And it's just a reality, and you have to be able to squish it as soon as you hear it. There were times when gossip was going around the ship or whatever. People can be really, really disgusting. And it's important that you don't let anything slide. And talking to all the ladies out there, like, do not let anything slide. Never take anything as, oh, well, like, maybe he didn't mean it that way. No, he meant it that way. Don't ever be passive about anything like this, because people won't take you seriously. And a lot of times, something especially that people say in the military is, when guys are acting a certain way towards the females, especially females in position, as soon as a woman is, being very stern about something, automatically they're like if she's not cool with it or whatever, they're like, oh, she's a B word. And that's their response to it. And that's very, very common. And you have to learn to be okay with it, because you have to, that's why your morals are so important, especially in the military. And that's why we have classes about leadership, ethics, and morals. And that's because you have to know yourself, and you have to know what's right and what's wrong, and you have to stand up for it no matter what they're going to say. And you have to know yourself, and you have to believe in yourself and be confident that you're making the right decisions and you're making the right calls. And no matter what those people say, no, like, I know what's right, and you can call me whatever you want, but at the end of the day, like, I'm in charge, and like, I'm not going to let this fly. Because too many times in the past, especially like as women have slowly gotten into the military, too many times things have been brushed under the rug, where women don't get their voices heard, and they're told to be quiet, and they don't get what they deserve as far as like the justice being served for whatever the situation is. And so it's really important to speak up when you hear stuff like that about yourself, about any other woman, about really anybody. Anything bullying wise, that happens too, whether male, female, whatever. Like, anytime you hear anything, speak up, because if you don't, nobody will. So
that's leadership.
Yeah. And that's yeah. So
no, we appreciate that. We appreciate the response, and me knowing you, I knew you'd get a little feisty if you had those experiences. And I'm glad you do, because that's that emotional part that I would love for all the girls in the group to see, is to see that you got to fight for something you want, and what you want is equity. And what you want is to be seen not by gender, but by more for the mind. And that's part of the wonderfulness about at least Mustang Robotics. We walk with a couple of those words you said, morals and ethics. More than once I've said those words out loud to the group, especially when things aren't maybe going right. Just continue with your morals and ethics, and things will work out later on in life, especially. Wow. So you walk a path that, no offense, I wish you didn't, but I'm imagining that most of us, especially my age, would imagine happens. And you now are at a different part. So you're officially a graduate of Washington, University of Washington. Okay, so that the dog days are behind you, except for now the dog days are in front of you with the military for a few more years. You're signed up currently doing flight school?
Yes.
Okay. Now, was there options when you were leaving Washington on what you wanted to choose to do, and how did you pick flight school?
Yeah. So your senior year of ROTC is when you start putting in your applications for what you want to do. Part of so the different options that you have as far as ROTC, you have to go unrestricted line in the Navy, which is not really that many options, but you can go surface warfare, so be an officer on a ship.
Okay.
You can go submarines, so you can be an officer on a submarine. You can go surface nuke, which means you would be a nuclear engineer on a ship. You could be go aviation, and within that, there's two different parts of aviation. Okay. So there are pilots, and there are the NFOs. I am an NFO, so that is Naval Flight Officer. I doubt it, but if any of you have seen Top Gun, Goose was the NFO. So he was the one in the backseat. Basically, I have to be qualified to fly. So I am qualified in flying. And
so you have a pilot's license now, or at the end of this?
No. I will eventually.
Okay.
In the training, I will have my qualifications to fly for the Navy. whatever aircraft that I have to fly or that I'm going to be on board of, I have to know how to fly it. Because I am the backup pilot in case something bad happens to my pilot.
But what is your main duty then?
My main duty is mission oriented. So I am the weapons officer.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Shooting the guns. Sorry, people out there, I said it out loud. You all thought it. I said it. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I'm the weapons officer, the navigations officer, and the operations officer. So I am the brains behind everything that's going on in the mission of the aircraft. So whether like the pilot is flying, I'm telling him where to go. I'm telling him where I need him to go so I can shoot what I need to shoot or drop whatever bombs I need to drop. And I am also the one on the headset speaking to the air traffic controllers somewhere on land. So I am kind of like the brains of the entire mission, whereas my pilot, it's funny, we call him the Uber driver. So he's like
an Uber driver who takes you where you want to go, and you just pay for the gas bill.
Yeah, so he or she is like my taxi driver, Uber driver, and I kind of am the one that's like, go here, do this. Yeah, so that's my job, and I chose it for a couple of different reasons. One, it's mission oriented, and I'm all about that. Two, it's very like challenging. You have like you're multitasking constantly, and I love it. I love that. And I wanted to go aviation because, I mean, who wouldn't? I
People scared of flying?
Who wouldn't want to go aviation? I mean, you get to experience something that very, very, very few people in the world will ever get to experience, which is flying a military fighter jet. Like, that's crazy. It's crazy.
What are you training in? What kind of, like, is it a fighter pilot trainer, or are you in
It's a trainer jet. So I am going to be training in the T6, which is like, it's a trainer jet basically, prepped for the like F-18s basically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Hornets. So, yeah.
How very cool. Oh my God. And all I was thinking this entire time is you have the machine guns. So that's interesting as a person who never really thought about this. I always thought the pilot pulled the trigger on like all the weapons and stuff because he was right there. You're actually like up and over them a little bit, and you're doing all of that with a whole second set of like controls.
Right.
Wow. Damn, don't mess with her, people. Don't mess with her. She just like find your house and it'd be over. Wow, that's amazing, hon. And so you're located currently in Florida. You've been there for a couple months. I hope you're enjoying yourself. The bugs are crazy. You told me you didn't necessarily enjoy the hurricane. All of that makes sense for someone who grew up in Southern California. It all makes sense.
Right.
Is there anything else right now about flight school that's going on you'd like to add as we start to close down this episode? Is there anything that jumps into your mind?
Yeah. So flight school is broken up into a bunch of different parts. There's like different parts that go into it, and I just like school never ends is like what I want to kind of make clear. Wherever you go, like school never ends. So if you hate school, really try to change your like whole mindset on that, because anywhere you go, whether it be in the military or out of the military, you're constantly learning. Even like as a teacher, like Mr. Pearson, you guys have to go on those random like trips or whatever to learn stuff. And I'm sure you're
on the internet currently. Yes.
And you're constantly having to read new textbooks about new material that comes out that you have to teach. Same thing goes for literally any career field. You're constantly going to be in school. Like, so really
it's time to change that vocab word you're using, because what you're talking about is being open to learning. And the reason our education school talks about learning, like the word school is learning. And learning is the idea of actually getting enough information that you can pull back out and use someday in your future. That's what we're discussing. We're discussing the willingness to learn.
Yeah.
And there's a closed-mindedness sometimes about people who enter certain things, and especially what you're doing. I mean, I can't even imagine, besides being a doctor or maybe one of those nuclear bomb people you're talking about, someone that I wouldn't want reading every day about the newest, twist or change or understanding of what they're assigned. I can imagine that learning is 24/7 all the time. And if I'm correct, let's keep this reality, people. We're looking at a young lady who looks very nice, but just yesterday or the day before, you had to pull an overnight or guard duty or something, and so that's part of also flight school, is you have not gotten away from military-based responsibilities of duties and things like that.
Yeah, so, there's always, even as a pilot or NFO, your main job is never to be a pilot or NFO. Your main job is always, always, always going to be to lead your division of people. That is always number one. You always are going to have, a group of 20 people, 20 to 30 people below you who are going, I don't like the word below you, who you're responsible for and accountable for, and who look up to you. When things go wrong, they're going to look at you and they're going to be like, man, what do we do? And you have to have the right answer. You have to have a answer for them, like some type of answer for them, because that's your role, that's your position. And so be there. You have to be there for your people, and that's really what it's all about. And then comes the fun part where you get to go and fly around. So
yeah. Ladies and gentlemen out there in our audience, we have a few more minutes to chat with Avesta here. And so if you haven't put a question into the chat box on Twitch and you have one, please do now. I have a couple different ladies behind the scene, looking at things. The directors are checking out what's being posted. And so we have maybe a couple more questions. Jai has popped in. I guess we got one already. Go ahead.
So our VEX Robotic referee page would like to ask you, was there ever a time when you considered going into the Army Corps of Engineers?
Yeah, so I actually never considered that. So I think if I was more, like I said, I majored in geology. And I think what really drew me to robotics wasn't necessarily the engineering part of it. And so if I was the person who was like more interested in the engineering aspect, like absolutely, why wouldn't I? I think the engineering part of the Army is like really, really cool. My dad actually worked with them and like he really loved it. So I definitely knew that was available, but like because my interests didn't really fit into that category as much, I never really considered it. So yeah.
And we have an interesting group of kids that graduated right around you, because I have Julian, who came and discussed the idea of him going the Army GI Bill. And then right around the same time, we have Kimmy Walker, who you brought up earlier. And Kimmy this year just graduated from West Point. Right. And I know that's a different route that we hope that one day, Kimmy, if you're listening, you're on my list of, hey, come and talk to us, as another young lady who can just explain the way she walked through her experiences with the military. Jai, another question from our group.
Yes, Mustang Robotics would like to know, what advice would you give to your high school self?
Wow. I think I would tell myself to not doubt myself and not cut myself short. I think not that I didn't have like self-confidence or anything, but I didn't know what I was capable of when I was in high school. I didn't know what I was made of. I didn't know, like I said, like some of this training that I've been through, like I would look at that and I'd be like, there's no way that I could do that. Like, that sounds so hard. That's like, that could never be me. But it was me, like I did it. So I wish I could just tell myself to not back down from a challenge. If something seems challenging to me, like nowadays, if something seems challenging to me, that makes it more desirable to me, because I want to know my limits. I want to know what I'm capable of and how far I can go. don't ever cut yourself short. That's definitely like the biggest piece of advice I would give myself.
You may tell a high school version of you that the challenges of life in front of you are more conquerable than you actually internally believe right now. And as you walk through life, everything that seems like you just won't be able to take care of business with, you have the power inside to be able to conquer that.
Yeah, I think the idea of a lot of things are a lot scarier than what they actually are. So,
like the idea of flying a plane to me, and this idea. There you go. Look at the smile on her face. She's so excited about this. We have another question.
Yes, our Sweetwater Union robotic coordinator plus event partner, Ms. Amara, would like to ask you, will you make the Navy a career? And if you do, what is your ultimate goal?
All right, that's a good question. Would I make the Navy a career? So that's something that I've talked to so many captains and admirals about, because I always like to ask them, like, when was the moment where you were like, I want to do this forever? And, a lot of them don't really have an answer for me. A lot of them are like, every time my contract was up, I just couldn't picture myself doing anything else, really. And you'll know when you get to that point. So I don't want to say for sure, like, yes, I'm going to make the Navy my career. I kind of am a keep my mind open to whatever happens kind of person. We'll see if I'm enjoying every second of it so far. So I have at least 7-8 years left of my contract now. So I'm gonna be in for a while. And we'll just see where life takes me, things change, people get married, have kids, all that stuff definitely plays a huge factor into decisions you make in life. But I love the camaraderie that the military has to offer. I love, the rush that you get with the jobs. You can't do jobs like this out in the civilian world. Like, you just can't. So we'll see. That's a good question. I don't want to really make up my mind about that. I do have like other, I guess, career aspirations, kind of like related towards my major, geology. Something that really interested in me while I was studying geology was geotechnical engineering. So back to engineering, I guess. That's kind of something that sparked my interest a little bit. And if I end up wanting to get out of the Navy after my current contract is over in like 7 or 8 years, maybe I'll pursue a master's degree, a graduate degree, so that I can get into the geotechnical engineering workforce. So, yeah.
When I read that you were in the Earth and Space Department, all I can imagine was you wanted to be an astronaut for some reason. I was like, she's a pilot and now she wants to be an astronaut. So
it is also, I would so not be opposed to that. But that's just one of those things where, like, if the opportunity presents itself, I'm there.
At this moment, I could probably tell you everyone in our audience would sign a letter of recommendation, believing that you are the quality type person who should have that opportunity. Like, seriously, you're welcome. You're welcome. Keep those dreams alive. Jai, we got another question?
Yes, one of our audience actually just asked that, have you ever thought about joining Space Force?
Ooh, Space Force.
Yeah, so Space Force is relatively new. No, I don't think I've ever considered joining Space Force. Not because there's anything wrong with Space Force, but just because I'm already in the Navy right now, and switching branches is kind of difficult. And I love the Navy. It has a special place in my heart. So I don't think so. But
I'm pretty sure a tattoo on your arm or something. Yeah. Yeah, well, the Navy and their tattoos, trust me. Yeah, you get the idea. No, so not only are you're branded Navy, probably is what I'm getting at. Like, it's kind of like, do you want to be Navy? Oh, it's a beautiful. I thought it was a Navy thing earlier.
No.
So I'm going to do a check-in with Jai, and I do know that East Coast, West Coast time, one of the reasons we started an hour early is you had some previous obligations. And so, Jai, do we have any more questions for our member or Avesta? Oh, we got a head shake. We got yes. Go ahead, Jai.
Yeah, one last question. Mustang Robotics would like to know, is there any other advice would you like to give to high schooler that wants to join the military?
Yes, absolutely. I would say look for the recruiters near you, talk to the recruiters, tell them exactly what you're interested in, what program, because a lot of the time the recruiters really only talk about the enlisted side of things, and they're very persuasive. Not that being enlisted is bad in any way, shape, or form. Like that is like some people want to be enlisted, and that's fine. But usually that's the only. Usually
that's kind of job duty and requirement is to find.
Yeah. So usually recruiters will tell you more about the enlisted side of things because it's like the more immediate, and like I don't know how to describe it. Like it's more.
It's a larger population they need to fill.
Right.
It really is the job duty of a recruiter to find enlisted individuals, and for individuals who want to become officers to find the ROTC programs or the academies. I mean, that's the other route, is going to an academy.
Yeah, and so like the enlisted, it's also like a more immediate career path. So like you sign up, you swear in, you go to boot camp, and then boom, you're enlisted, you're in the Navy. Whereas with officer, it's a much longer process. You have to go to college. You have to have a bachelor's degree to even qualify to be an officer. So do all your research beforehand about the different programs that there are, because there are three. If you want to go officer, there are 3 different ways to become an officer. 3 different programs. You can go to the academy, OCS, or ROTC. Those are the only 3 ways of becoming an officer. So,
and the one in the middle is what?
OCS, Officer Candidate School. It's kind of like boot camp, but it's much longer and it's very, very intense. It's like kind of like boot camp, but you have to have a bachelor's degree already, and then you can go to OCS.
Oh, so if you had gone to college, got a bachelor's degree, and then decided to become an officer, and your route, the ROTC, is more you're doing them in tandem as you're going through school.
Yeah.
And then the third route, the academy, which would be something like, again, Miss Walker experience, and we hope that she can come and share with us. So,
exactly. So those do your research about what you want to do. Find your local recruiter. You can find all this stuff online. You guys are so much more tech savvy than I am nowadays. So I'm sure you can find a recruiter near you. Email them, tell them exactly what you're looking for, and they will 100% direct you to the person that you need to be talking to about that program. And that is literally their job. They are recruiters. Like that is what they get paid for. So use them. Ask them whatever questions you have. Some will even meet with you in person and explain to you everything that you need to know. They'll even invite you to base so that you can see what it really feels like to be in that work environment. So yeah.
Avesta, a couple of years ago, we've had recruiters on. We have 2 different sets of recruiters on campus, and one year the Army recruiter came in like every day, brought us donuts, like really buddied up with us. It was really cool. And then she scared the crap out of me and offered for me to jump with the Golden Knights out of a plane. And I was like, yes, no. Like, it was really cool. So we are a group that does have that connection, guys. Once we do get back to campus, please understand Mustang Robotics does have I believe it's a Navy recruiter and also an Army recruiter that works on our campus. We could reach out and find other branches for you. I'm pretty sure the Marines and the Army will run right over and talk to you also. And I like what she said. They're there to help you understand your options. So don't just take what they hand you on the first piece of paper as that's it. Ask your questions, do your research, try to figure out, like she did, the history of something that draws you in, the reason, the variable, and Vesta, Mustang Robotics is a better place today that you spent some time with us and allowed them to all take a moment and see just a different way that you could go through college, sign up for a military branch and have it work out for you. Right now, you look really happy. For me, I'm being greedy. I've enjoyed the time. I mean, as a mentor and advisor, getting to talk to my students is really kind of cool, especially when I haven't seen them for a few years. And so Jais jumped in. I don't know what this is. Magic, another question?
Yeah, I can take one question if there is.
This is like, I got one more in me. I got this. Okay, go ahead, Jai.
With no more question, I would just like to ask the audience to fill up the Google form, post in the chat to give us feedback, so to help us to make this series better in the future. Thank you.
Awesome.
And ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, we would love to thank our officer here, Ensign Shwany. Yes, I have to say it. Okay. And if you don't mind, yes, you knew I was going to ask you for it. I made you go get it earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could ever see yourself as a military officer because of this conversation, I think that's an amazing thing that we would love for this to do for you. And during this pandemic affected year, being able to have these interactions, we hope gives you a little bit of direction. And so if you've missed any of our previous episodes, we've had students from UCSD, we've had students from other schools. Avesta obviously has a roommate coming home. But for everyone out there, we thank you for attending this episode. And if you've missed any others, they're located on YouTube, so you're more than welcome to go and watch them. Mustang Robotics would like to say, have a wonderful day. Enjoy your weekend. And Avesta, you go have a fabulous Friday night in Florida, please.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you again. And ladies and gentlemen, have a nice night.
People try, it's the first thing they do. Only different, it happens to you. Only makes sense when speaking to you, but it got away. My goal